The most controversial and profound question that Severance poses for its viewers is whether tampering with a human mind can be legitimized as humans to step into a future flanked by AI. In episode 4 of season 2, Helena was finally busted posing as Helly with the Glasgow Block suppressing her innie consciousness. This incident was a mere glimpse into what kind of mind control arsenal Lumon possesses. Lumon is capable of a way greater mind games than they let up, and as we progress into the season and gain more insight into the company's larger plans, which has been a topic of speculation for a minute, more of Lumon's mind control tools may work their magic into the innies' lives. In today's video, we're going to explore all the mind-altering functions in Lumon's bag like Glasgow, Clean Slate, Beehive, and many more. So let's jump right in and see what these functions are, where they have appeared in the series, and how they can be used to puppeteer people. Now, before we get in, a small request, please do support our content by subscribing. It's a small click for you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you so much, and let's go. The mind control work at Lumon. Lumon Industries prides itself for the revolutionary mind control chip it has brought into the world. But by now, the viewers know that Lumon is nothing if not the sneakiest reptile in the jungle. While on the surface, Lumon has coined a chip that offers the person the ultimate work-life balance, Lumon furtively keeps many others less than honorable ways of controlling the unassuming folks that sign up for the Severance program. In the first season of Severance, we saw some protocols in the Security Office Quick Start Guide's binder. This gave us the first look-see into the other devious ways in which Lumon can control their employees' minds if they needed to. Later, when Dylan gets inside the security room to activate the overtime contingency protocol, he notices that there is an even larger list of things on Lumon's mind-altering menu. These were Beehive, Branch Transfer, Clean Slate, Elephant, Freeze Frame, Glasgow, Lullaby, Goldfish, and Open House. Talk about a whole shopping basket full of goodies, right? Well, let us break down what we know about these mind-bending tools. The Overtime Contingency Protocol. The Overtime Contingency was introduced into the show with a real bang in the last season. What with the innies going into the outie world and causing a Twister-level-ish storm all over Lumon. So for those of our viewers not familiar with the series, a Severance chip is surgically implanted into a person's brain. This chip then affects a split in a person's identity. The person now has two personalities, an innie and an outie. When a severed guy takes the elevator to the severed floor in the Lumon office, his innie takes over and his outie disappears. He retains no memories of his life outside the office. In the evening, when the same guy leaves the office, he no longer remembers anything of what he was or did at the office either. In the first season of Severance, 4 microdata refinement MDR employees, Mark, Irving, Dylan, and Helly, became real close and sought to seek out the truth about Lumon's shady work. In this quest, they retrieved a black card that could get them inside the security room. Dylan then got into the office and activated the overtime contingency protocols, which allowed the innies to wake up in the outside world into their outie lives. Though this protocol needs 2 people to simultaneously press the activation command, Dylan did it himself by stretching himself out real wide. This gave his colleagues Mark, Irving, and Helly 39 minutes in the outies world. Lumon preserves the OTC for emergency situations only. It was only used one other time by Milchick and Dylan before the season finale. Needless to say, the OTC activation by Dylan was the biggest disaster James Egan, the strange, slow-walking and talking CEO of Lumon Industries, could have never imagined what would happen on his watch. While this function being used by Lumon must be one of the most confusing moments for unsuspecting innies, the way it used in the series is by Dylan made for the most satisfying sour turn for Lumon that we, the audience, absolutely loved. Beehive. The Beehive function has not been used on the staff in the series as far as we know. The most straightforward inference we can make by the name of this control is that it activates a hive mentality among staffers. Hive mentality refers to a group of people using a collective intelligence to work towards a goal, much like bees and ants. Hive mentality drives humans to be geared towards one goal with an extraordinary level of coordination. The fascinating thing is that hive mentality is used by many organizations in the real world as well. The idea is that the collective collaboration between groups of people can outdo the power of any single individual. Now, this concept is right up the Severance alley, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the idea that is being tested as we speak at the severed floor. The problem with the hive thinking is the same big issue we notice in the strict commandments that Lumon follows, which are based on Keir Egan's philosophies. The Beehive mentality is so locked into the idea of people cohering with a way of thinking to reach a certain goal that people kind of become mechanized. Suppressing critical thinking and dissenting views becomes a standard practice in such environments like at Lumon, where one is sent to the break room or given other psychologically debasing penalties for transgressions. The hive mentality concept is like made for a series like Severance, and looking at how it affects people, especially employees in a workplace setting, it feels like there's been going on in Severance all along. The series could yet use the Beehive function in a creepier way though. I mean, I would really love to see one of the unknown department's entire staff turn into complete zombies with a Beehive activation. How much fun would it be to watch a cloudy-eyed bunch that looks like those goat wranglers chasing down Mark, Dylan, and Helly in a psychological horror sequence? I know, I'm reaching, but won't that be just crazy good? Branch transfer. This function is probably a way to reset the Severance chips to work at different work locations. And as the name suggests, a branch transfer is probably used when employees are shuffled between office branches. The new guys that Mark had briefly worked with at the beginning of the current season had transferred from other locations into the office in the city of Keir. The branch transfer function was probably used on them to make their chips operate within the new Lumon building.
Hi, Miss Casey.
Please describe for me your time in the restaurant.
Clean slate. Who is the first person that pops into your head when I say clean slate? Miss Casey? I know she's the one that I immediately think of with this function, and I don't even definitely know what the creators of the show have in mind with a clean slate. There was recently a vague mention of the clean slate in the series. When Mark was trying to burn the words, "Who is alive?" into the retinas, Righavi showed out of nowhere and told him it won't work. She said that it would briefly dilate his pupils, after which she said clean slate. I think what she meant was the glowing words would dilate its pupils but would have no effect on his retina. Now that's cool. Makes sense. But then she said clean slate, which was like one of the moments in Severance that totally throws you off. Now, how is a clean slate related to dilated pupils? Something anyone can achieve after spending some extra time at the bar? Well, if you guys have any theories on this, then please, by all means, enlighten me. Now, generally speaking, clean slate is a term used to refer to a person starting their life over, leaving behind the misdoings of the past. With regards to Lumon's clean state cycle, it could be a function that uses the Severance chip to effect a complete wipeout of a person's memories, leaving behind only the executive functions recall for the person to work with. This feels like something Lumon has experimented over their permanent staffers with, like those acquires from those car accidents. Remember the name on Irving's Audi list? And of course, Miss Casey comes to mind here. In an interview with a Hollywood Reporter, Dan Erickson had promised to split open the Gemma/Miss Casey mystery this season, so we should soon have our answers about Gemma, if she was indeed clean slated to become Miss Casey or not. Next, we've got the elephant. The function elephant axis circuit is likely related to the famed elephant memory. Elephants with their 10.5-pound brains develop a burgeoning bank of knowledge that helps them and their herd throughout their lives. Their memories are said to be so strong that they can even recall the exact emotion they felt in a situation decades after it happened. The elephant axis function could be another name for Lumon's own brand of reintegration, where the chip is forced to activate previously suppressed memories within a person. This procedure probably looks something like what Righavi did for Mark, except maybe with more clean and sophisticated look and tech. Freeze frame. Out of all the functions we've explored so far and the ones to come later in the video, the freeze frame is the one that foxes me the most. Freeze frame is something we do in a video footage. You know, we hit pause and the frame freezes. If you've seen some cop shows where they can zoom into the security footage and stuff. But the only way I can remotely think of a freeze frame as being applied to a human is that it would completely seize their muscle control, stopping them on their tracks until they're left standing totally stiff like the wax statue. In the perpetuating wing, the employee's consciousness consciousness may or may not be affected with this one. But boy, this just makes me wonder how Lumon came up with all these functions. I mean, surely there were some guinea pigs along the way, and I love the way Severance makes such an intense commentary on the biotech space, whether on purpose or unknowingly. It really makes you think what those lab-coated people are up to, deep inside those biotech research facilities we've never seen the insides of. Hey guys, do give me your takes on the freeze frame though. I'd love to read some good theories on this function. Now okay, moving on to the mind bender that caused all that drama in episode 4.
She's not Helly!
Glasgow. The Glasgow Block was used on Helena to make her infiltrate the tight innie clique and micro data refinement. As Helly, it allowed Helena to go on to severed floor while Helly's consciousness was effectively put on ice. Glasgow appeared to be a way to completely block the innie's consciousness from a severed mind, such that a person's outie can go into the innie's world. This is like the total reverse of the overtime contingency protocol that we saw in the last season, which allowed the innies to gate crash the outie's world. As we had theorized in our first predictions video on Severance, the name Glasgow is probably taken from the Glasgow Coma Scale. This scale is a medical measure by which doctors and technicians routinely measure a body's motor, visual, and verbal responses to evaluate the consciousness of a comatose person. Helena has been strutting about the severed floor acting as Helly since the onset of season 2 without much of a glitch. Of course, she didn't fool Irving, whose outie we postulate to be an investigative agent of some sort. In episode 4, titled Woe's Hollow, Helena made the mistake of wandering off into the winter wonderland of Dieter Egan National Forest, in which the team had awakened the day before for a team building activity. As she admired the waterfall by herself, Irving caught up with her and dunked her head into the icy water until she shed the farce and called Milchick by his first name, commanding him to turn off the Glasgow Block. Milchick promptly gets on his walkie-talkie and tells the mysterious personnel on the other side of the call to remove the Glasgow Block. Lullaby. Lullaby is most likely something to put a severed person in a state of lull or fully asleep. It could be the function that aids Lumon to keep an employee asleep after the severance procedure until they wake up on the conference room length table with that speakerphone memory check. For the record, that could also be just the anesthesia of the procedure wearing off. Now, I will say to this, if Lullaby is a function that has anything to do with soothing an employee or keeping them unconscious, Cobell and Milchick could have used it a lot more to control Helly in the last season, and recently on Irving when he was trying to get Helena to spill the beans on her true identity. While we are not yet sure how quickly each one of these functions can be activated via the chip, 2 instances we have seen, that is the OTC in the last season and the Glasgow Block recently, were switched on and off in a fraction of a second. So why wasn't a function to soothe the employees used in Helly when she was going nuts trying to get out of the severed floor? Well, maybe the managers felt letting her deal with his things the hard way and come to terms with this stifling office environment was the best way. And now let's move on to the last function on our list. Goldfish. The myth about goldfishes having a 3-second memory might have inspired the name for the goldfish function. This function is probably a short-term memory wipe sort of a thing. So if Lumon needs to do something it does not want its employees to remember, they could use the goldfish protocol. Do you ever wonder how Mark, Dylan, and Irving just woke up in the snow escape of the Dieter Egan National Forest all of a sudden? I mean, they surely went to office as they do every day, and their innie self-emerged, but what happened after that? It could be that they were in a simulation. I mean, how on earth would Lumon round up exact lookalikes for each one of the MDR people outside of a simulation anyway? But if it wasn't a simulation, that would mean that the MDR employees were taken to the forest. This could only have been accomplished by using some sort of a short-term memory wipe tool like the goldfish. Marvel's verdict. Lumon is a Pandora's box of debased mind control tech. Mark, Irv, Dylan, and Helly are heading for another big showdown to close the season off, but I really wanted to involve one of those new mind control functions that we haven't peeped on before. On an off note, did you know that social media has been noted as an amplifier for high mind behaviors? Research says it can be a good thing, but also a bad thing. Good because people can connect and communicate more freely than ever. There is a whole bunch of knowledge at our disposal, like there never was was in the past. It changes the way we think and perceive things, of course, but it can also be bad. People can easily be influenced by incorrect information. Now, there is a lot of that around. Social media is infamous for dramatized facts, even falsehoods. There are echo chambers, bubbles that show information that one likes to see to reaffirm their beliefs, as opposed to what is actually happening. Watching Severance once made me think about the virtual fields of social media. Funny that. Severance is a great commentary on things of the mind and how we can sometimes let it wander into a place that is not of its choosing. If I may, it is one of the most thought-provoking shows I've ever seen. Alright fam, that's all from us on Lumon's mind-boggling tech today. If you've got some alternate theories on the functions we've talked about, pop them down in the comments below, and I'd love to join in on the conversation. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video.